Good afternoon. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting, 4:30 p.m., Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020. First item of business, we're going to have to do the public meeting notice to receive an order filed stating that the Planning Commission meeting will conduct their meeting by teleconference. And then we're going to go to, because we're going to have two commissioners and John Nisley on.
Let's check to make sure they're
Okay.
both commissioners are on.
Have we got Rodney?
I'm here.
Okay. Ashley?
Here.
Okay. And we've got John Nisley on staff.
Here.
Okay. So, perfect. So, item 3 is to approve the minutes of the October 29th, 2020 meeting.
I'll make a move to approve the minutes.
Move to approve as they were distributed.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. We're going to have Dave call a roll call.
Mr. Golden,
Yes.
Mr. Firth,
Yes.
Ms. Earl? Yes. Ms. Aukus,
Yes.
Ms. Mako,
Yes.
Mr. Karnitz,
Yes.
and Mr. Mack.
Yes. Motion carried. So item 4 is to conduct a public hearing to consider the application of Scott Abbott's requesting an interim use permit to allow the operation of a part-time auto repair business in a detached garage on the property located at 1314 South Washington Street and legally described as Lot 4, Block 131, south of Center Street. The property is zoned R1, Single Family Resident District. We looked for staff report.
Okay. The property owners are Scott and Sharon Appetts. The deadline for a decision on this request is December 20th, 2020. The land use designation found in our comprehensive plan is low-density residential. Surrounding land uses found in the comprehensive plan on all sides is low-density residential. The zoning designation, as previously indicated, is R1, which is a single-family residence district. Surrounding zoning to the north, south, east, and west is also R1. Current site land use is a single-family dwelling and detached garage. Current area land uses are single-family dwellings, and that surrounds the property. Notice was published, notice was provided to all property owners within 350 feet of the subject property and published in the Journal on November 21st, 2020. As far as public comments, at the time the staff report was written, we had received 3 emails and 1 letter. One property owner had sent 2 of those communications, and they were attached. In addition, you have received today another communication from a neighbor. Project description: this is the city's 4th request for an interim use permit. An interim use permit is allowed for the following reasons. This is found in section 922, subdivision 2 of the city code. Number 1, to allow land use for a limited period of time that is reasonably utilizes the property in a manner that is otherwise not consistent with the comprehensive plan nor permitted in the applicable zoning district. 2, to provide the city with a reasonable degree of discretion in determining the suitability of certain designated uses at certain times for specified zoning districts. 3, to allow a use that is presently acceptable but not permitted within the zoning district and with anticipated development may not be acceptable in the future. Or 4, to allow temporary use of a property until a particular date, until the occurrence of a particular event, or until zoning regulations no longer permit it. The applicant's proposed use of the property does not meet the definition of a home occupation since it utilizes a detached accessory building. Approval of an IUP application requires the city to find that the criteria provided in Section 922, Subdivision 5 of the City Code will always be met. The review criteria and the applicant's response to them can be found on page 2 of the IUP application. In approving an IUP, the city may adopt and impose such reasonable conditions and requirements as it deems necessary and appropriate to ensure continued compliance with IUP review criteria. The proposed business would primarily be located in the detached garage at the rear of the property. The garage abuts an alley. The applicant has operated the auto repair business out of the garage for over 10 years. An auto repair business is not a permitted use in the R1 zoning district. The city has recently received a complaint about the applicant running the auto repair business out of the garage and notified the owner of the need to cease operation of the business. The applicant then decided to apply for an IUP to continue the auto repair business in the detached garage for a limited period of time. The applicant anticipates having 2 to 3 customers per week. There is room for 4 parking spaces directly abutting the alley. The city has never authorized the operation of an auto repair business in a residential zoning district. Auto repair shops are permitted in the B2 zoning district, which is the service business, and in the I2 general industrial zoning district. In the B2 district, this use is subject to the following conditions. The parking area shall be surfaced with a dust-free material, and the arrangement of entrances, exits, and parking stalls shall be subject to the approval of the city engineer. And 2, the lighting shall be accomplished in such a manner as to have no direct source of light visible from a public right-of-way or any other classes of residence districts. And I think it's important to remember that those conditions are for a commercial location. So typically it's along North or South Broadway. Attachments. There's a copy of the application, a site location map, a zoning district map, a site map of the property noting the detached garage location for the proposed use, ground level photographs of the property, and then the public comments. In addition, I handed out 2 photographs that were attached to one of the emails. Staff would recommend approval of the interim use permit for the following reasons. The business has previously operated at this location. It is intended to be a part-time business, and there was adequate room for on-site parking. Note, if this request was to start a new auto repair business, staff would recommend denial of the request. Also stored on the property is a race car trailer. The impact of storing and maintaining this vehicle should also be considered. I also would note, though, that this is a hobby. And since it's a hobby, it's not something that we would typically regulate. Conditions. Number 1, the applicant agrees to sign the consent agreement with the city, which is a standard requirement of receiving an IUP permit. 2, the interim use permit approval is for a period of 3 years from the date of city council approval. 3, the applicant shall not operate the business on the premises outside of the hours of 7 a.m. to 9:00 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. 4, the applicant will ensure that the business complies with city code standards for odor, dust, vibration, smoke, fumes, or gases, and unsightliness. 5, any sign on the property shall not exceed 2 square feet. 6, customer parking will only take place on the applicant's property and not in the alley right-of-way or on any area neighbor's property. 7, there shall be no outdoor storage of vehicle parts being repaired or waiting for repair at the site. 8, no more than 4 vehicles shall be stored outside at any one time. This would be a combination of applicant and customer vehicles. 9, all repair work shall take place within the detached garage. 10, activities taking place on the property will comply with the city's noise ordinance. 11, the applicant shall comply with regulations found in section 8.63, which prohibits the placement or storage of junk cars, household furnishings, etc., stored on public or private property. 12, when loading or unloading vehicles for repair, the alley shall not be blocked. There shall be access through the alley by the public at all times. 13, the applicant shall comply with Minnesota Pollution Control Agency standards regarding the storage and disposal of any hazardous waste generated from the business. And 14, the applicant will pay the cost to record the permit and consent agreement with the Brown County Recorder's Office. Then 2 motions are provided, one to approve the request and one to deny the application. That concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Dave. So I'll remind everybody this is a public hearing. If there's anybody that would like to be heard, you can please step up to the podium and state your name and address for the public record.
Kristen Laguerre, and I live at 1324 South Washington. So I can
Yep.
voice my opinion. I appreciate Scott's business in my neighborhood. I've used him 1 or 2 times to fix my own vehicles. That was quite a few years ago. However, I don't want the business to go away because I know he probably uses it as an income. That's not what I'm here to take his income away. However, I have small children, and we have a lot of kids in our neighborhood, 8 to be exact, just on where I live. Some of them are under the age that don't realize that they shouldn't be in the alley or running around, as there's many cars that come through that alley on a daily basis. Only there's like 5 of us that actually use the alley for our bit, like just our own personal use. That alley has been blocked more times than it's insane. I have a boat, I have a pontoon, I used to have a camper. I could never get out on one end of the alley a lot of the times. I have blocked the alley once for a birthday party and a retirement party, and the police showed up within 10 minutes of me blocking that alley. I did it for the safety of my people that were at my house. This was a couple years ago. And I was told I couldn't block the alley. So my concern is that it is blocked more times than I can get through. It's frustrating. I have to always go around. Granted, I'll go around the block. But when I'm trying to get a boat out or something out, I feel as though I pay taxes both ends. I should be able to get out both ways. The clearing of the alley, we use a snow removal service, Cross Snow Removal. They're very good. They're always got it cleared out by 6 o'clock in the morning. And I've had no complaints with that until, I believe it was this last year, that Scott must have hired somebody to come in and do snow removal for them, which in turn taking the snow from their property and dispersing it to all of our properties. And in my opinion, that's not fair to me because I have enough snow to deal with already. I have a 3-stall garage. I have a boat. I store everything there. I don't park it on anybody else's property. I don't store my stuff on somebody else's property. I shouldn't store somebody else's snow, I guess. The amount of business that I have noticed coming in, originally when we first moved there, it was fine. I never had any issues with it. I thought that's a great thing to have, that if you can do your own business in your garage, great. But over the years, it has gotten terrible. The amount of speed that comes from these vehicles, and he lives in the middle of the block. These people have no, respect for anybody's children or anything that is in that alley. I've hollered at quite a few of them. They don't care. They obviously don't care. I mean, they've looked at me and just kept driving. We've had a few things broken into. I'm not blaming that on this at all, but when you get strange people that come and go all the time, okay, that to me is a concern, but whatever. The other thing is my husband used to park a railroad truck up in the front yard. He works for the railroad, and it would be parked there, say, a week because he was on vacation. We got a parking ticket for his railroad truck being up there for a week. Whereas a race car trailer or whatever can be parked on the city street for days on end in the front yard, but yet there's no parking ticket on it, or I see no parking ticket. Maybe I'm wrong, and you can call me if I'm wrong, but it's frustrating to me because when I don't see a parking ticket paid later on, that's frustrating. My husband does it, that's his job. I just don't feel like he should have ever had a parking ticket. But anyways, there is a lot more vehicles than 4 on that property, which to me, I don't care. As long as it's on their own property, I don't have a problem with it. Problem I have is I help my neighbors who we're close, very close neighbors. Their fence is a wooden fence. It has been hit. We witnessed the hitting when it got hit, and it literally moved the fence and you could hear the crunch. I was mowing the lawn and seen it and I went, oh my word, and I heard it. I looked. So the respect part for being neighbors with them, and I have to hear it from them because I'm friends with them, it's disappointing to know that the fence has taken such a beating from being hit over there. I would be livid if that was me. A fence isn't cheap to replace, and theirs is literally falling over because of that. In the grass, I fertilize their yard. It's been parked on their side of the garage. There's many holes. We put up roping to stop people from parking on their property. It continues to go on and on and on. But like I said, if it could be controlled as far as how the speed is in the alley, if there was respect to watch for my children or the kids that play in the alley, I would have no problem with him having a business there. Those are my only complaints, I guess, and my opinion. So, that's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
You understand if we approve it or don't approve it, he can still do personal things to his garage.
Agree. And I have never had any problems with personal, like them race car things. That's great. Whatever. It's kind of a family affair for them. And that's great. As long as I can get through the alley and that race car trailer isn't parked in the alley for hours on end and I can't get through. It's frustrating. I don't have big equipment, a pontoon and a boat. I can't go out the one way because there's a telephone pole. I can't make that turn. I'd have to go forward and back out. And we've done that numerous times. So, but I mean, hobby or whatever, that's great. But those are just my concerns and that's all I can do.
Any commissioners have any other questions for?
No, appreciate
Kristen?
the input.
Thank you. Anyone else like to be heard? We can talk now. Yep.
Okay, my name's David Oppitz. I live at 1323 South Washington Street. Scott's my dad. I help him in his garage quite a bit. And he said the thing's only been open for like 10 years. It started in 1988, so it's been going on for 30 plus years or whatever, So we'll just cross off the first thing here. She was complaining about the snow removal. What we did is we took a four-wheeler and we made it into a snowblower. And we took care of our own snow because the lady she's talking about just kept complaining to us about the pile of snow that Kraus would put there was in her way. So we were like, well, we'll just eliminate this problem. We're not going to do snow removal with you guys anymore. We have a snowblower. We blow it into the backyard. It's not in the alley, and it's alongside the garage on the other side.
It was Rudy. Rudy did it. It wasn't you.
That was a long, long time ago then.
Doesn't matter. I don't want snow on my property.
Well, that's not on your property, though. It's in our yard. But anyway, I was quiet while you were talking. I respect the same thing. So in the trailer, okay, what she's talking about, we raced Saturday night. He uses his personal truck to pull the trailer. So it's going to move Sunday morning when he has to put the trailer away because he uses his personal truck to get around town. He needs his personal truck. it doesn't sit there for days on end. Maybe 18 hours tops. Depends on what time on Sunday he has to go somewhere. If he doesn't have to leave, he'll put it away at night. But it's always gone the next day because we've got numerous parking tickets from it being on the street. So we don't want any more parking tickets now. So I don't know exactly what she's saying. Maybe she's seeing another trailer sitting there. But if she's saying it's sitting there days on end, that's not possibly true at all. And the fence incident that she talked about, we did run into the fence, but the fence did more damage to the aluminum on the trailer than the trailer did to the fence. It wasn't the fence popping that made the noise. It was the aluminum on the trailer that popped off. We had to put a couple pop rivets in it to fix it back up. The reason their fence is falling over is, as she said, it's a wooden fence. It's been there for years. It's rotting off at the bottom of the ground because they didn't do the fence properly. They didn't put cement up and make the water run off. It's just sitting right on the ground. So water just sits around the fence post and it's slowly rotting it away. It's been up there for 10, 15 years. I'm not sure exactly, but. And the weird thing is she says there's too many cars now. Okay. He's like 64 years old now. He's getting ready to retire. All he wants to do is work on cars in his garage and mind his own business. Except for now, the only reason they brought this up to the city is because of the snow removal thing. We don't want to partake in their thing, so they made it a personal thing now. It seems against us, which is whatever. They can do whatever they want to do. But
One person at a time, please.
But the weird thing is back when we were moving cars in and around the garage, I'm not gonna lie, we had cars all over the place. We had cars in the front driveway, on the street, in the back. Probably more cars than we probably could even count it at some time, probably up to 10. We'd have to shuffle them all around to figure out which ones we needed to work on. But now, when he only brings in maybe 3 cars at a time, tops, now they want to report something when he's getting older. He's going down. He's not getting younger. He's not moving faster. So I don't know exactly what she sees about cars around the yard, but they're always on our property. There's not anywhere else. And she wants to sit here and talk about cars driving through the alley. Well, they have their craft sale, their garage sale, their lemonade stand, the birthday parties, everything else. They probably have more traffic driving through that area with the garage sales and the craft sales than we do with cars. I'm not going to say we don't block the alley, but the matter of time that we block the alley is 10 minutes. We pull up, and we pull off to the side. They can easily get around us. There's plenty of room there. All we do is we back up, drop the car off, grab the four-wheeler, push it in the garage, he backs the trailer in, and we're done. Takes a matter of 10 minutes. So I'm not sure exactly if she's just going on past behaviors and not looking at the present. So that's basically all I got to say.
Just a few, could you explain exactly how the business would operate?
Such as?
Well, how many customers do you anticipate? It was indicated 2 to 3 a week. Is that inaccurate?
Yep, that's what me and John talked about. And like he said, and I talked to John, and if there's a certain amount of time that you could use, I think you said 7 to 9. Well, at 63 years old, he ain't working on cars at 9 o'clock at night anymore. And, well, old people wake up early, so I can't help them about the 7 o'clock in the morning thing. So I can't help you there. But I know he ain't working on them that late at night. So, anything else?
No. What type of work typically is done? What is the range of work that is done on vehicles?
It varies. It goes from oil changes all the way up to motor swaps. So there's not really one particular thing we pick on.
So how do you manage the hazardous waste
It goes
from what
to
you
the
do?
dump site down here on 3rd North.
And your official name for the business is what? And do you guys have a sales tax number?
Well, it's Scott's Repair. The sales tax number, you'd have to ask him. I don't know.
We just pay tax when we buy parts and stuff.
Were you guys aware that you can't have a business like this in an R1?
Well, we've been doing it since 1988, so and nobody's ever said, it's not like they just moved in. It's not like they're new to the neighborhood. So no, we didn't really consider it at the time because the issue never came up. You know, it's been 30 plus years of working on cars in his garage.
Is this the first time that you've received a letter from the city in regards to operating a business?
Yeah.
In the 30-some
Yeah,
years?
and it's because of the snow removal I'm assuming is because we don't partake in the snow removal last year. So we just took care of it ourselves. So we didn't pay the bill. You guys didn't move our snow. We didn't have part of the bill.
How much noise is generated, revving engines inside a garage, closed garage, open door?
He never opens the door.
The doors
It's always closed.
in summer also?
Yep, all the time. He even has the windows covered. He doesn't want people looking in there and seeing everything he has in there.
I have a question, just looking at one of the overhead pictures. The lawn side of the garage towards the house, there seems to be a lot of accumulated, whatever, I can't tell from the picture. But if I look at those two pictures, I wouldn't be real happy if that was my neighbor.
I didn't
On that one picture, I showed two trailers at least and 4 vehicles. And like I said, I'm not sure what's all in front of between the garage and the house. But there's a lot of stuff there.
I missed the first part of his question.
He's,
If I can interject,
Yeah, go ahead.
the agenda packet included an aerial photo of the property. And there are vehicles, evident in that aerial photo, So
Dave, I'm looking at the first one again. I'm coming back to what's between the garage and the house.
there
It looks
also
like
were these that were taken.
I see the sidewalk and I see a little storage building and I see a closed trailer and an open trailer along the garage.
Yep.
And then between the garage and the storage building, there's a lot of accumulated stuff.
It doesn't show it in these pictures.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's
it
right.
does.
It's east of the garage.
Maybe
Well, no, it's east.
it could, this is another one they got.
It's attachment 2, Dave. It's
What?
attachment 2.
or attachment 4?
Oh, that's the four-wheeler. That's the four-wheeler with the snow blower on it. And then we have a walk-behind four-wheeler or a snow blower, sorry. And I believe the other stuff that was sitting there is we just recently re-sided the tin on the garage, on the shed right here. And I believe that's what you guys are seeing right there in that picture.
There's a lot of stuff there.
How many adults live at that house?
2 adults. 2 adults and, 4 people in total.
How would you handle the parking if this would be granted? One of the conditions is stated, for 4 vehicles. So if you've got a couple adults, do you feel that you have enough parking to run that business?
We sat with Dave and John before, and like we told them, if we can only have the 2 cars in the garage at a time, then that's what we got to do. If we got to follow guidelines and rules that you guys set up for us, then that's what we got to follow. It's no. So.
As far as a
This
business,
is Ashley. I have a question.
go ahead, Ashley.
Thanks. I was just curious, being new, I'm curious on the interim parts of the permit. I think it's when you did the staff report review, it said that would be for 3 years. Is it expected that then by 3 years the business will be moved somewhere else, and this is giving them time to find a new location? Or can you just explain that to me a little bit?
Dave, do you want to take that one, Dave?
Well, I think maybe we could ask that question of the applicant. The permit would be for a 3-year time period.
Right. Yep.
After 3 years, what would you anticipate would happen?
Yeah, he'll be pushing 70, so probably just be obsolete at that point. To little to nothing.
So you would not anticipate that the business would continue beyond that time period?
Right.
Okay,
Well, if
thank you.
he's
And is-
60-some years old now, he'll only be 60,
66, 60,
okay, 69.
67.
Is 3 years the standard, or is that,
The interim use permit can be granted for up to 5 years,
and as low as 1?
as low as 1 day, I suppose.
You know, this would be our fourth one that we've done, you know.
The others have been beauty shops.
Correct. Well, no, we did the Cala Contemporary Woodwork was our
That's
first
right.
one on North Broadway.
Right.
And sometimes it can be used just as an opportunity to see, for the individual to get a taste of their business and see if, until they can find a permanent location, you know, just to test in the waters and for their business needs. That's how I take it for, you know, an interim, and they're trying it.
So this is a little different because the business has been in there, in that location for years and years. That's a little bit different scenario, right?
This has been going on.
Mhm.
Obviously, we've got a complaint, and then, you know, now it's being addressed, and so they're asking for it as an interim.
Mhm.
And it's, you know,
This is Rod. I'm surprised the word interim to me means a lot shorter time period
Right.
than 3 years, I guess. In this case, I would be more apt to look at something like 6 months and have them address some of these issues that we see, and then come back and see if it's improved. But 3 years in this condition for me seems like a very, very long time.
okay.
I would agree.
Will the other letters be read public?
Sure. Dave, do I want to read in these letters?
Well, if that's the request of the chair,
I
we,
think they do need to be read because
Okay. I think,
the original complaint is from the letter.
well, let's
They're
have,
attached to the agenda, and the agenda's public.
we have
Okay.
2 letters in the agenda. We have a new letter that I believe we got today, this afternoon.
yeah,
Am I correct by that, Dave?
that's
So we've
correct.
got 3
Or
letters on?
We got that in the mail this morning.
Okay,
So would you like me to read that one into the?
please.
Okay. This is to the attention of the community director. I am concerned about the request from Scott Abbott to get a permit to operate a garage in block 128. My reasons are gas, cleaning fluids, torches, and I think a grinding tool. Also in the summer, he gets race car ready. The noise is so loud, it's unbearable. It also brings in too much traffic in the alley. There's not enough room to park, so the alley is blocked. Also, there's a lot of small children in the block and makes it too dangerous. Thank you, Robert Fullerton.
Thank you, Dave.
All of the other communications that we received were in the agenda packet.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody else like to be heard in the audience? Like to speak on the matter? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing. And I'll open it up for discussion for the commissioners.
I guess I have a concern about the children and the amount of traffic going into the alley and blocking the alley. You know, if he's changing cars and unloading trailers, if somebody's dropping off a vehicle, how is he going to not block the alley? If it's been there that many years, though, and hasn't, you know, I'm kind of torn. I definitely would hate to see this pattern develop, you know, is setting a precedent to allow a garage in a residential area.
What about the mechanic that actually goes someplace and actually wants to do the right job in the right area? possibly taking a business away from him. You know, I would hate to be a neighbor in that neighborhood knowing that there'd be a car service there, but he already he's doing different. Just if we grant this or not, people have to understand he's still in the neighborhood, he can still fix it on his own cars and everything else.
That's correct.
Correct.
So everybody has to understand that might not change at all either.
Correct.
So he can still do his own work and everything else, and that's if there's a lot of noise or whatever, that's gonna be a police matter down the road, I'm sure.
If it's noise.
If it's noise.
Noise
correct,
related,
yes.
or the 863 with the
Yeah,
the
well,
lighting.
anybody, I mean, I can work on a car in our garage if I wanted to, or, you know, we have a neighbor kid who swaps engines once in a while, but he's doing his own car, and that's fine, because I can personally go over and say, hey, you know, and talk to him about it. But if it's a business running out of that operation, I can't go over every day and say, hey. It's noise and traffic, I guess, it concerns me.
I think the other thing that
I get
concerns, oh, I'm sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Rod?
Okay, go ahead.
The thing that concerns me is that with the other interim use permits that we looked at, we did look for feedback from neighbors. And this situation is different in that we do have some complaints up front about proceeding. So that, to me, that's a big concern.
Right.
I guess I'm concerned about, you know, the noise, the children, the block and alley, but also becoming almost, again, from what I see from this picture, almost looks like a blighted area in that front back of the garage. I don't want to say that it is, but I mean, there's even without any work there, he's got 2 trailers at least. There's just a lot of equipment sitting around there, and it's again, I would not want that to be my next door neighbor. I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel. I'd be in favor of a short-term agreement, like maybe 6 months, and give them an opportunity to rework their business plan a little bit.
I guess I have a question for you, Scott. In your time that you've run your business, have you ever considered to get a business location within the community? Has it ever been a thought, or it's always just the work from home?
But I don't make enough money to get a place.
Okay. You know, 'cause it just kind of seems like, you know, you've obviously got an established clientele and a following, but the business is.
Now I've hardly got any work now, so.
Okay.
Seeing the amount of conditions that are laid out here, if this were to be approved, makes me wonder how would this be checked up on or enforced or determined whether these conditions are being met?
Well, you would, I guess we would rely in part on probably comments we receive from neighbors, the public, and, you know, staff could, you know, periodically inspect, and as could the police department.
Then still, if we issue this and then he's still trying to enjoy his hobby, he might be trying to work on his hobby, and then it comes to be a fine line defining the hobby versus what's the business use, you know.
I work on a race car on Saturdays, Friday, Saturday. We just drive it out of the trailer and put it in the garage and fix it and drive it onto the trailer again. I mean, we don't start it every day.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, and one other thing we've talked about is how we truly do want to support small business on this commission. You know, it's something that we certainly do want to support. So
That was one thing I brought up with when we met with John and Dave before, is like, you guys, like, I know like 17 people that run businesses out of their house. Maybe you guys should reword this zoning thing a little bit and be like, okay, we don't care if you guys work out of your house, but we're gonna make sure you guys come and get this permit. You guys gotta pay for the permit, and then we'll grant you guys the ability to work out of your house. Instead of
So,
saying, oh,
Can you,
guys
can,
can't
you
do
know,
it.
can I have you please come up to the mic, the podium, you know, so we can have it on for the record?
Okay, what you want me just to rephrase what I just said?
Sure, please.
Okay, basically what I met with Dave and John before, I thought you guys should maybe just reword this thing, the code a little bit, instead of saying, oh, you guys are in a residential place, you're not allowed to work, have a business there, because, like I said, I know 17 people that have businesses out of their house. There's 4 of them in the neighborhood right now that everybody does something. Goes from hair salon, carpentry work, a soap factory, and a daycare. So I'm sure the daycare is licensed, but still.
Daycare is a permitted use.
Yeah.
You know, a hairstylist is a permitted use. You know,
And so is a massage.
and so is massage by permitted uses.
Okay.
So they've come forward to apply for a conditional use permit to run a
Okay.
home occupational business.
And plus, you're the one that was turned in, not them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what he said too last time.
So, you know, on that
But
aspect.
I mean, that'd be a good way for the city to get a little bit of kickback from the people working out of their house, and this stuff won't happen again in the future if they would just reword it a little bit more and just make them get the permit. If you guys want to work out of your house, you guys got to get this permit. The city can collect the money for the permits, and people can keep working and doing their hobby as they feel fit. Well, not as you feel fit, but I mean,
Yeah. But you do realize that if if this was a brand new business, this would not be allowed.
Right.
You know, right now you've been here. We've got a complaint. We've got to address the issue one at a time. And I'm going to ask Dave a question here in regards with our conditional use permit, as far as comparing New Ulm, say, to other communities of our size and nature, is running a home business for a repair shop allowable in other communities without a conditional use permit? Or is it a do we know have any background with that?
We'd have to research
We'd
that
have to
to
research.
give you an honest answer. I am aware of communities, and again, we haven't researched it, but I have run across ordinances where they're very specific that repair businesses aren't allowed in residential districts. But that's not necessarily the standard.
Okay.
That's kind of probably a community decision. You know, each community gets to make their own decision on that matter.
This is Rod. I've got a question or a comment. The speakers said that the owner is older or younger than I am and may not be working as much anymore, but I'm assuming that the son is also part of this business and drives the race car, so in 3 years, I don't really see that business changing a lot,
I don't drive the race
if
car.
I understand.
I don't.
1 second
Pardon
here,
me?
Rod. 1 second here. We'll have him speak here.
Is he ready?
Go ahead.
I don't drive the race car, and I don't help him as much as I have in the past because I also have a 10-year-old daughter and I got a family on my own, so I got other priorities also, and instead of this one.
So you're just kind of like a second set of hands
Yeah.
occasionally if
Yep.
he's got a bigger project?
Right.
Okay. Does that answer your...
Who owns the race car?
It's like a family ordeal. There's a few of
Okay, so you don't drive
I
it,
don't
but
drive it.
someone in your family does
my
drive
uncle
it.
drives it.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Rodney?
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't clarify it much, but it still answers it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to just, as on the council, I received a couple calls, and I actually drove by the house yesterday again, too, and I drove around the block, and I didn't see anything out of line, from the alley. I didn't, on that aspect, but the 2 calls that I received from neighbors there, they were not in favor of having this as a home occupational business in that neighborhood. And just kind of stating that, from what people that left messages on my answer machine, and I followed up with their calls and concerns, and in between my meetings yesterday, I went out because I didn't get my packet for this until Monday afternoon, and that's
You can stop by.
correct. But I know, but it's just saying, on the council, You know, I don't know how the rest of the council, we're just an advisory here, this is, and then it would go to the council to
Right,
make
yep.
the actual, decision on this, to
Sure.
allow it or deny it.
I have a statement with the snow
Yep,
removal.
Chris, can you please come up to the podium?
The snow removal. There are, I believe, 13 houses on our block. I do not handle the bill. Our neighbors handle it. One person handles the bill, and then they go to house to whoever wants to pay the bill. This last year, we had new neighbors, Maisie and Brandon, aren't come in, and they decided they didn't want to pay the bill. Whoever didn't want to pay the bill, the other ones that did want to pay the bill, we split that bill. That has nothing to do with you guys not paying. You guys don't want to pay, that's great. But if you want to run a business, you guys aren't shoveling the whole alley. You guys are just doing your little small driveway. So we're paying for the entire alley to be done, but for you guys to run your business as well. So there was no hard feelings about the paying for the snow removal. There's the Laguerre house, Mrs. Wiesner's house, Fullerton's house, Patsy down the block, and Olivas. All of them have always agreed to pay the bill because we all use it because we have a garage back there. It has nothing.
I didn't get a bill.
We, and,
The bill wasn't even.
right,
like,
because we,
But it's not about snow removal.
no, okay,
It's
so
not even about it.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree, but I just wanted to make sure that that was correct, that the bill wasn't given because you did your own removal of
Kristen?
your sidewalk.
Well, then why
Yeah,
are we
I-
talking
I-
about
I think
snow
we've-
removal?
We're gonna have to get back to the main subject here
Agree.
of having the business here.
So,
you
and
know.
I think it needs
on
to be
that.
monitored more than every 6 months, because the amount of cars that, and this is why this got brought up to this attention, that this problem, is because this business has sprouted. I don't care the age or not. There's been a lot.
One person at a time, please, to speak.
There
So-
has been more now. And I tell you what, I'm not the one making these complaints. I wasn't in the first place. It's everybody else that's complaining about it. I haven't said one word about it. But I'm agreeing with that, what is going on, because it's true. And I'm not, like I said, I'm just here because I couldn't write a letter. I didn't have time. Here I am. That's why I'm here stating it. I don't want the business to shut down, but as long as they can follow the rules of everybody else around and having to pay taxes and everything else, should be followed. Shouldn't be just granted that you guys just can all of a sudden do this business because you've been doing it for 30 years. Yeah, well, you're breaking the law too, because there's rules and, or well, not the law, but there's things that need to be followed. We all have to follow them. Why don't you? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any further discussion here? Otherwise, we'll be looking for a,
This is Ashley. I apologize. I just had to turn off the call here. Are you able to hear me okay?
yes, we can hear you, Ashley.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to say that since I'm needing to head off the call, that I would be more in favor of giving them the permit for 3 to 6 months, just so they can maybe get a plan together or at least finish up any projects that they're currently working on, versus just not doing anything, and then they'll still need to get some of their affairs in order. So that's just kind of what I'm leaning towards on this end.
Thank you.
Can we change the
We'd have,
permit time, or do we grant or deny the permit and they have to reapply for a conditional use?
No, I think the standard that we've used in the past is that you cannot exceed what was requested in the application, but you could reduce what was requested in the application.
I will not support any time. It's time for this thing to end. As far as I'm concerned, I make a motion to deny the request for conditional use permit.
got a motion to deny.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second to deny. Any further discussion on the motion in hand? I'd look for Dave to call a roll call.
Okay, Mr. Golden,
Yes.
Mr. Firth,
Yes.
Ms. Earl,
Yes.
Ms. Aukus,
Yes.
Ms. Mako,
Yes.
Mr. Karnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes. Motion carried. So this will go to the council meeting, and this will be the recommendation, but the council, will hear, this information that we presented here today, and they could overturn our recommendation. So just so you're aware of that. That's going to be December, meeting, date
No, it would be the 15th.
15th at 4:30 p.m. here. So.
Again, I'm not like everybody else. I'm not opposed to a business person working hard to earn some money, but I think there's just a lot of issues that need to be addressed here, and puts a lot of burden on other neighbors. So some things have to become different before we could. I would be in favor of approving this.
Okay. All right, we're gonna go on to item 5. It's gonna be a plot. And 5.1 is to consider for approval the preliminary plot for the Airport Industrial Park 3rd edition. We'll look for staff report.
Just before the staff report starts, this is Ashley. I have to sign off.
All right, thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Okay, just give me a second here.
Sure.
Okay, the property in question is located north of Walmart and west of Sampson Street and northwest of Barron's Boulevard. The property is currently zoned I-1, which is a planned industrial district. The plat involves the extension of Jacob Street and Sampson Street to their intersection, and that alignment would result in 2 lots being established to the east of Jacob Street and 1 lot being established west of Jacob Street. In your staff report, the lot areas are provided. The plat would allow the city to sell the lots that are, identified, that would be identified. I don't know if the commission has any questions.
And these are all these are both industrial lots, correct?
They would all be, this is all industrial property.
All industrial, okay.
And this is part of a parcel of property that the city purchased several years ago as an extension of the existing industrial park. Currently, it's being cropped, and the parts that aren't used will continue to be, will continue to do so. The site has utilities, surrounding it, or at least surrounding it on the east and the south side. Storm sewer could be a little bit of challenge the further west and north that we go. The comprehensive plan does not designate a park, within the platted area. The total platted area is 13.65 acres. And of that amount, 2.05 acres is for streets. In the I-1 zone, we do not have any minimum lot depth requirements. And you can see from the table that is provided that the platted lots would meet the lot area and lot frontage requirements. Your attachments include the preliminary plat, the aerial photo, and the zoning map. Staff would recommend approval with conditions. The two conditions would be pay the platting fee at $240 and then provide an electronic file of the plat in an AutoCAD 2016 or newer format.
Dave, would I be correct that why we're doing this plat today is that there's an interested party in this, in developing in this, and that's why we need to get a legal address in order to go into negotiations?
Well, we need a legal description to be able to sell the property.
So.
I'd make a motion to recommend approval of the plat. I think that was very forward-looking when the city purchased that property years ago.
With conditions?
Yes.
Okay. I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second to recommend approval of the plot with conditions. Any further discussion on the motion? We'll have Dave do roll call here.
Okay, Mr. Golden,
Yes.
Mr. Firth,
Yes.
Ms. Earl,
Yes.
Ms. Mako,
Yes.
Mr. Karnitz,
Yes.
and Mr. Mack.
Yes. So motion carried. And we will go on to item 6. It's a comp plan, discussion, plan, park, trail section. We look for staff report.
Okay, thank you. This has to do with some recent discussion on the part of the Park and Recreation Commission about future park development. And I think this is something that the Planning Commission needs to be aware of, and actually I think you maybe may want to participate in. So I would like to give you a little bit of background on the basis for that suggestion. And I'm going to quote kind of in part from state statute. And so the authority to plan, a municipality may carry on comprehensive municipal planning activities for guiding the future development and improvement of the municipality, and may prepare, adopt, and amend a comprehensive municipal plan and implement such plan by ordinance and other official actions in accordance with the provisions of sections 462 to 351, or 462, 351 to 462, 364 of Minnesota state statutes. In accordance with state statutes, and specifically 462, 354, the New Ulm Planning Commission serves as the city's planning agency. State statutes further designates the planning agency as being responsible for the preparation of the city's comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission, in its preparation of the plan, shall consult with and coordinate the planning activities of other departments and agencies of the city to ensure conformity with and to assist in the development of the comprehensive plan. Now, I provide a definition of the comprehensive plan, and you probably have heard this before when we talked about requests for rezonings that might also have entailed a change in the comprehensive plan. But a comp plan is an official public document adopted by a local unit of government as a policy guide to decisions about the physical development of the community. Plan is supposed to be comprehensive, general, and long range. Plan should promote orderly growth and development while maintaining a sound infrastructure system, and should be done in the most economical manner possible. The plan is one of the most important public documents the city has, since it lays the foundation for land use management and control of properties in and outside the city. Your zoning ordinance, your zoning map, your subdivision regulations are intended to carry out the general provisions of the plan. Our first comprehensive plan was adopted May 7th, 1996, and that plan was revised on September 4th, 2007. Our current plan has the following subject areas: land use, streets and trails, park systems, utility system, historic preservation, and economic development. Plan is intended to last, 10 to 15 years. Of the 6 sections, the 3 most important and longest in terms of length in the comprehensive plan are land use, streets and trails, and park systems. And actually, of those 3, land use is probably the most important. Now, I've provided some information on land use plan, on the street plan. I'd like to just talk a little bit about the park and trails plan. The purpose of the parks and trails element of the comprehensive plan is to A, guide the Park and Recreation Commission, Planning Commission, and City Council in acquiring land for new parks. B, guide development of new bike routes, sidewalks, and off-street trails. C, help guide decision-making regarding improvements to existing, underdeveloped, and undeveloped parks. And D, provide policy direction regarding natural resource preservation management and recreation facility development. As noted previously, the Park and Recreation Commission is currently reviewing existing and proposed park areas within the community and establishing a ranking system for future acquisition and development efforts, and they are using the comprehensive plan in this process. Given the Commission's role as the city's planning agency, this topic should be of interest to you, and in particular, the location and nature of any improvements should match the comprehensive plan. If it does not, it would necessitate an amendment of the Park and Trails section of the plan. At the conclusion of this review by the Park and Recreation Commission, staff will advise a commission of their findings. On a related note, the commission should consider providing the City Council with a recommendation as to the locations within the community that would most benefit from the acquisition of property or the development of parks. Given the fact that you are the commission that is supposed to be most knowledgeable of development within the community and where that development is supposed to be taking place, both now and in the future, it would be appropriate for you to make those kinds of recommendations. The Park and Recreation Director has provided the Park and Recreation Commission with the following documents on this subject. He has areas of neighborhood park development consideration and then comprehensive plan, park and trail plan. And so my suggestion to you is that in the next month that you take a look at these documents, and at your December meeting, that we would have a further discussion on this subject. And at that time, we could talk about locations within the community that perhaps are most in need of, either the investment of money in updating existing parks or the establishment of new park areas.
Thank you, Dave.
And Tom Schmitz, the Park and Recreation Director, is here. I don't know if Tom has any remarks.
We can't let him leave without saying something.
After all, he came.
Yeah, he
all this
attended.
way.
He's involving us.
Yeah.
Tom Schmitz, Park and Recreation Director. Councilor Mack, Planning Commissioners, I think Community Development Director Schnobrick, Introduced the topic very, very well. You've got some great information in the packet. Do take some time, please, to look at Chapter 5 of your adopted comprehensive plan. Talks a lot about existing parks, but also future parks. We're all about development and trying to provide opportunities for the future in our community and future growth, future development, and an opportunity for all residents is to have a walkable or bicycle ride to a neighborhood park, a developed neighborhood park. You see in the packet there's quite a number of parks that the city owns and has designated but are undeveloped. And then there are some areas where the city owns land, but it's not designated as parkland, and it's undeveloped. And then thirdly, in the comprehensive plan, there's locations for future parks in kind of a conceptual manner. And that would be on page 5-14 of the comprehensive plan. The reason, I've been in this position now 15 years, and we really haven't not developed a new neighborhood park. But the reason this is coming to fruition is a neighborhood that has developed with residences and occupied homes has an interest in a neighborhood park being established where they could walk or bicycle to in the Upper Cottonwood Street area. And that is one area of the proposed planned future parks, conceptual parks, that does not have the ability to walk or bicycle to an existing park. North Highland, Goosetown area, the Diocese area, they all have the opportunity to walk or bicycle to a developed park, whether it's Highland Park or Herman Heights Park up on the hill, North Highland area, or North Park on the north side of town where Lakeside Village or Huffman Edition could get to a developed park by foot or bicycle, or in the South Goosetown area, the possibility of getting to Riverside Park on the same topography, the same elevation, not having extreme elevation challenges to walk or bicycle to a neighborhood park. So I think this coming to you is very appropriate and timely. And I would encourage you to create some sort of a recommendation to forward onto the City Council. The Park and Recreation Commission will be doing the same thing. We're going to be analyzing and trying to quantify a little matrix to say, how many homes are in this area, how many people are in this area, how close are they to a developed park, the readiness, the opportunity for developing our next neighborhood park. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer those, but I'm excited to have you study this topic as the Park and Recreation Commission will be studying this and forwarding on recommendation to the City Council for their hopeful action in the coming weeks or months.
I've got a question for staff. So number 8 here for proposed parks for Upper Cottonwood Street.
Yeah.
How did we get to that level? I'm just asking the question for the public understands and the commissioners here, because when we're developing a neighborhood, generally we've included a park already in a development. But how did we get to this one now? We have no park, and now we have to look at an acquisition to purchase land or to develop it. Can you give us a little history there, or because
I think if we look at that particular area, on one side, you've got the Cottonwood River, the bluffs, and then you've got the hill, the elevation of coming up the hill, and so the location of a park to serve that area probably isn't best located within that subdivision, since you want it to serve as wide an area as possible. And so that's why the idea was to push the park outside of that particular subdivision and, further to the west. And if you look at the park and trails map here, and I apologize, this isn't the greatest copy. Wherever you see solid green, that is, existing parks that the city owns. Where you see the round or the circular greens, they're light. Those are proposed parks. Now, since this was done, we actually have acquired property in at least one of, at least one of those areas now along North Highland Avenue. But as part of the comprehensive plan in 2007, if you look in the vicinity of the area that Tom was talking about, you see a park designated to serve that area. So it's intended to serve that subdivision, but it's also intended to serve a wider area as well. And so then you want to locate it where it can serve the greatest number of people possible. Does that answer your question?
Well, I was just kind of curious, again, because we've got a neighborhood and we started developing it and we never designated land, and, now 15 years later, we're looking at it finally.
Yeah, but I would say we have designated land.
Okay.
And it's what shows on this document, that's,
Sure.
the area where we wanted the park to be. And I guess, it's basically a matter of, if the city council wants to, proceed with the development of a park in this location, then staff would proceed to contact the property owner and talk to them about that particular, location.
So that you don't own the land that you necessarily have in the pale green circles, you're just saying that that would be your,
That's the
Utopia.
location that where we want to be. But what it does do is it does put the property owner on notice that someday there's a need for a park in this particular area. And you'll notice when I just gave the staff report on the plat, I mentioned that the comprehensive plan did not designate a park in this area. And so that's to tell you that according to this document, it's not required in that location.
and I'm assuming Adams Park does not count. Yes.
Adams Park is not within the service area of Upper Cottonwood Street. Adams Park, one of our wilderness, urban wilderness areas, is, down in the floodway and is not ever proposed to be developed into a neighborhood park. It's a wildlife natural area. So again, the comprehensive plan is very clear that residents should be served by a neighborhood park, and it's identified and designated in this area, in this circle, but the city does not own the land, own any land for a park up there. So it's conceptually designated in this area, but there's no city-owned land for that purpose as of today.
And I would note that the areas that have been designated for parks are considered to be future residential areas, for the city of New Ulm. So, it kind of goes hand in hand.
Okay. Any further discussion? Do we want to have a motion to accept this, or this is just discussion?
Why don't we have a motion to accept and then continue the discussion to the December 30th meeting. And when Tom gets additional material prepared for consideration of this matter, we'll certainly share that with you.
Great.
I would make that motion as stated.
Second it.
Got a motion and a second to accept the staff report as stated, and any further information that'll come for us, to us. So we'll have Dave take roll call.
Yeah. Mr. Golden,
Yes.
Mr. Firth,
Yes.
Ms. Earl,
Yes.
Ms. Mako,
Yes.
Mr. Karnitz,
Yes.
and Mr. Mack.
Yes. All opposed? None? Motion carried. We will go to item 6.2, City Council decisions concerning Planning Commission matters of November 2020.
Okay, at the November 3rd meeting, the city council approved with conditions the application of Jill Peterson for a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a hair salon as a home occupation at 29 Circuit Drive. They approved with conditions the application of M&D, or the application of MD Properties LLC requesting variances for storage building condominium project at 323 19th North Street. And if you happen to drive by there, one of the buildings is up, at least the structure is up, so they are proceeding with that project. They approved the application of Rodney and Bonnie Repke requesting a variance at 1213 Howenstein Drive for a front yard setback variance. They approved the rezoning of the property requested by Bev Luneberg as general manager of Luneberg Enterprises LLC at 1601 to 1627 South German Street. And that rezoning was from R3 to I2. They approved with conditions the application of Tony Rush on behalf of the New Ulm Youth Wrestling Association and Bev Luneberg to allow a local youth wrestling organization to occupy and use a new building at 1601 to 1615 South German Street for youth wrestling activities. And then they authorized the platting of a portion of the airport industrial park area. At the November 19th meeting, they held a public hearing on the final plat of M&D addition at 323 19th North Street, and that was approved with conditions. And then they conducted the first reading of ordinance 2020-40, and that was the rezoning of the Luneberg property. And at yesterday's city council meeting, they had the second reading of that ordinance, and the council then voted its approval, so that'll take place. That concludes the report.
Thank you, Dave. 6.3, Heritage Preservation Commission activities, Elwood. So we have no discussion there because they didn't meet. So, meeting adjourned.
And he stayed the whole meeting.